10 years of marriage felt like a big mountain we had climbed together, so my wife Mia and I wanted a quiet celebration. Our budget was tight after some house repairs, so I searched Airbnb for a beach place within driving distance of our home in North Carolina. An ad popped up for a 2-bedroom house on top Sail Island oceanfront, private deck, modern kitchen listed for roughly a third of the normal price. The owner, a man named Caleb Shaw, explained in a chat that a last-minute cancellation left the week open, so he was passing. The savings on the deal looked too good, yet the reviews were mostly 5 stars and recent. We booked it. We arrived on a sunny Sunday afternoon in late October. The house sat at the end of a narrow road that led to dunes. The stilted beach house, freshly painted in light gray, with a white metal roof, carried the scent of new paint and salty air. Caleb maintained a polite distance, leaving the key in a lockbox and sending a brief welcome text that included a reminder about quiet hours. After 10,000 p.m., we settled in, enjoyed a stroll along the shoreline, and then grilled shrimp on the deck as the sun dipped below the horizon. Everything felt perfect. The first 2 nights were calm. We slept with the deck door cracked so we could hear waves. During the day, we drove to a small seafood market, read books in hammocks, and took photos of pelicans diving for fish. It felt like the low price was pure good luck. On the 3rd night, a storm rolled in fast. Around midnight, lightning flash, like strobe lights behind thick clouds. Thunder boomed so hard, the house seemed to shake on its posts just after 1 a.m. Mia nudged me through the roar of rain. We both heard the back door handle rattle, a clear metallic jiggle pause, then another attempt. I sat up, my heart racing, but I reminded myself that the wind can make odd noises. The door stayed shut after another loud thunderclap. The sound stopped. We eventually fell back asleep. Morning sunlight revealed something we hadn't expected. A wet trail began at the back door, leading 6 or 7 bare footprints across the tile toward the hallway, then back again as if someone entered, wandered a few steps, and left. The door was locked from the inside the same way we'd left it. We stared at the prints, not speaking. Finally, I wiped them up with paper towels and snapped photos on my phone. I messaged Caleb, asking for the outdoor camera footage on the listing. He'd advertised the system covering every exterior door. He replied within an hour, "Sorry, cameras offline since yesterday. Power surge, knocked them out, waiting on replacement parts." He apologized for the inconvenience and offered to send his handyman, but we declined, choosing to handle it ourselves. I wasn't willing to let one strange incident ruin our trip. Although the rain had stopped, the same handle noise echoed through the house around 2 a.m. This time, we both shot upright in bed. Again, nothing happened beyond a short rattling. Dawn brought another set of damp footprints. They were faint, but matched the size and shape of yesterday's prints. We spoke little over breakfast. A tightness hung in the air. On the 5th day, we agreed to stay awake past midnight to catch whoever it was. I brewed a pot of strong coffee and set 2 patio chairs in the dark living room, facing the back door. We killed the lights and waited with only the glow of the microwave clock. Just after 1 a.m. rain began hitting the windows, soft at first, then harder. A flash of lightning lit the dunes. In that split second, I saw a lone figure at the edge of the deck stairs. He was tall, shoulders hunched, hands tucked in pockets. We ducked below the windowsill, my pulse hammered in my ears. 5 minutes passed. Another strike of lightning lit the living room for half a second, and we saw the figure closer right outside the glass door. a gentle tap on the deck rail. Then, from the opposite side of the house, the front door knob turned, followed by a soft click, like a key sliding into a lock. The door creaked open a few inches before shutting quietly. We scrambled toward the bedroom, feigning sleep. I slipped under the covers, leaving just enough moonlight through the blinds to watch the doorway. Slow, unhurried, heavy footsteps moved down the hall. The bedroom door pushed open. Caleb Shaw, recognizable from his host photo, walked in. He wore dark jeans, now soaked at the cuffs, and a white t-shirt plastered to his chest. Rainwater dripped from his hair onto the wood floor. He stood at the foot of the bed, hands dangling at his sides, breathing slowly, eyes fixed on us. We lay frozen, pretending to sleep, yet I knew my breathing sounded forced. After what felt like a full minute, he whispered, voice rough, like gravel, "You're awake." I can tell I did not answer. He tilted his head, studying us, then said, "This place stays quiet when guests respect the rules." He took a small step closer. Lighting cracked outside. A burst of light showed his face, twisted in some private frustration. Then, without another word, he turned, walked back up the hallway, and the front door softly clicked again. Silence, except for rain hitting the roof. Mia trembled next to me. I forced myself to count to 30, then whispered for her to grab only essentials. We snatched wallets, phones, and shoes, leaving clothes and groceries behind. I opened the car door as quietly as possible and backed down the driveway with headlights off. When we reached the main road, I hit the gas. We drove through the dark for almost an hour until we found a 24-hour gas station. Inside, under bright fluorescent lights, we finally spoke. We agreed not to go back, not even for our belongings. I filed a police report by phone. An officer met us the next morning at the station, took our statements, and promised to look into Caleb. They warned that because he technically had key access and hadn't threatened violence, charges might be tricky. Airbnb support refunded the remaining nights and said they would investigate. Weeks later, a detective called to confirm Caleb Shaw had previous complaints, unauthorized entries, missing items, but no one had pushed the case. Hearing that felt worse than the night itself. He was still out there, maybe renting the place under a new profile. I kept the photos of the footprints in the text thread, but we never got our clothes back. The trip that was meant to celebrate 10 good years became a lesson. A cheap listing is sometimes cheap for a reason, and stranger danger can wear a friendly host badge. Since then, we only book hotels for vacations, places with a lobby full of night staff, and we always block every door, even when it's not raining. Before we dive into the next story, a quick request. If you want to support this channel, please consider joining the membership. Members get early uploads, bonus stories that never go public, and the chance to vote on future topics. Your support covers the late-night research, recording, and editing that keep these true horror tales coming. Just hit the join button below to see the perks. Thanks for being here. Now back to the story. A few months ago, I was between jobs and needed a quiet place to finish a freelance project. The cheapest option I found was a small stilted beach house listed on a rental app. It sat alone on a strip of North Carolina coast that is busy in summer, but almost empty in late October. The listing said the owner lived 2 hours inland and left a lockbox key. I decided on a 7-night stay, drawn by the allure of the sea breeze and ocean sounds. While I worked, my arrival on a blustery Sunday coincided with an early sunset, casting a dark gray hue over the water visible from inside the house. The place felt basic but clean, featuring 1 bedroom, a small kitchen, and expansive windows offering ocean views. Modern amenities were scarce. There was no television, cell service was unreliable, and the router only worked sporadically. After unpacking and making a sandwich, I convinced myself that the solitude was peaceful, not lonely. The first 2 nights passed uneventfully, marked only by the familiar creaks of the old wooden structure and the steady rumble of waves. I worked late into the night, both evenings, finally falling into a deep sleep around 3:07 a.m. on the third night, only to be jolted awake by the distinct sound of a screw. It was high, sharp, and so sudden that my heart felt punched. I rushed to the front window that looked over the porch, and the sand beyond the glass was fogged from indoor heat. So I wiped a clear circle with my palm and pressed my face to it. Nothing. The beach was empty, the moon hidden by clouds. I opened the window, a crack only wind, and surf answered my rational side, whispered that I had dreamed the sound, but my hands were shaking too much for that to be true. I stayed awake until dawn with the lights on, pretending to read daylight, gave the place a harmless look. I walked the sand expecting to see fresh footprints or maybe a prankster cigarette pack, but the wind had smoothed everything into blank ripples. The nearest occupied house was half a mile downshore. I told myself, vacation homes echo old decks, loose screens, gulls that sometimes cry like children by lunch, and I almost believed it that night. I locked the door, checked every window latch, and laid my phone on the nightstand with the recorder app running. If another scream came, at least I would have proof that it wasn't in my head. At 3:07 a.m. my eyes snapped, open to silence. Then from the underside of the house came 3 slow thuds, as if someone hit the support posts with a hammer. The mattress trembled. I grabbed the phone and crept to the living room window that faced the steps outside the porch light. The bulb I had turned on was dark. I stared until my eyes watered, but saw no motion, no tools, no person. When the sun rose, I listened to the recording. It held 40 minutes of regular night noise, followed by the 3 blunt impacts, loud and clear, and nothing else. I emailed the clip to myself and the owner, asking if he had workers scheduled. His reply came hours later. No maintenance this week, probably raccoons. Raccoons do not switch off porch lights. On Thursday afternoon, I drove to the nearest gas station to clear my head. The cashier said almost nobody rents that house. After Labor Day storm wrecked the security cameras last year, she added, while counting change. Some folks say the place is creepy at night, but it's just the wind off the inlet. I nodded, pretending to agree. Back at the house, the air felt heavier, as though the rooms remembered the conversation. I left every light burning. When evening fell, just after 2:50 Friday morning, motion woke my phone screen. I woke with a jolt, unable to fully focus. The front door handle clicked and turned, the deadbolt holding firm, but the knob twisted back and forth with a steady, patient rhythm. I crouched behind the couch, my heart hammering so loudly I feared it would drown out any other sound. After about 30 seconds, the handle stopped. Footsteps moved across the porch, down the stairs, and out onto the sand. The screams returned, not one, but several overlapping, like distant sirens, then fading toward the dunes. 15 minutes later, I found the courage to open the door. A single wet footprint marked the porch boards, pointing towards the water. The rest of the wood was dry. There were no tracks on the stairs, and none in the sand. Only that one mark, as though the owner stood on one leg. I decided the stay was over. I threw clothes into my suitcase and hustled to the carport. My car would not start, battery completely flat, Though it was new, I locked myself inside the house, called 911, and waited with a kitchen knife. Deputies arrived just before dawn. They searched under the house, along the beach, and even flew a drone over the dunes. They found nothing. One deputy older asked if I knew about the surfer who drowned off this stretch last fall. He got caught in a rip current on a foggy night. Friends heard him screaming, but could not locate him in the darkness. His body washed up 3 days later, a mile north. The deputy said, locals sometimes report hearing cries on stormy nights. The sea makes weird echoes. He wrote the case as an unfounded noise complaint and left. I checked out that morning. The owner met me to return the deposit. He looked tired, almost apologetic, and said he planned to raise the foundation and add new cameras before next season. I did not tell him about the footprint or the dead car battery. I only wanted distance. Last summer, I rented a small lakeside cabin in upstate New York, looking for a quiet place to clear my head. After a rough year, the cabin sat on a private dock surrounded by dense woods in a calm, dark lake. It was perfect, isolated, peaceful, with just the sound of water lapping against the dock. But something wasn't right. Every night, a boat drifted out there, and it changed everything. The first night I noticed it, around midnight, I was on the porch, sipping coffee, trying to unwind. The lake was still reflecting the moon like a mirror. Then I saw it, a small rowboat, maybe 15 feet long, just floating about 50 yards from the dock. It wasn't tied to anything, just drifting in slow circles. I figured it belonged to a neighbor, maybe broke loose from a dock nearby. I didn't think much of it, and went to bed the next night. It was back, same spot, same slow drift. I grabbed the binoculars I'd brought for bird watching. The boat was old wooden with chipped paint inside. There was a figure, just a shadow, really sitting, still facing my cabin. I couldn't make out a face, but the way they sat so rigid sent a chill through me. I told myself it was just someone fishing or maybe a local checking out the new renter. But it didn't feel right. Why were they just watching for a week? It was the same every night. That boat appeared always around midnight. I'd watched through the binoculars, and the figure was always there staring toward the cabin. I never saw them row or move. They just sat like a statue until the boat drifted out of sight. I started locking the doors, something I hadn't bothered with at first. I even called the property manager, a gruff guy named Carl, to ask if anyone else used the lake at night. He laughed it off, said it was probably just a local fisherman, and told me to relax. But I couldn't shake the feeling that whoever was out there wasn't fishing. I started keeping a journal, noting the time the boat appeared, how long it stayed, and anything I could see. I bought a heavy-duty flashlight just in case. I'd sit on the porch, binoculars in one hand, flashlight in the other, watching their shadow in the boat. One night I got bold and flashed the light at it. The figure didn't move, didn't react. It just sat there, facing me. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. I went inside, locked the door, and didn't sleep that night. By the 10th night, I was a wreck. I wasn't sleeping much, and the quiet of the cabin felt oppressive. I'd started hearing things, creaks in the floorboards, a faint tapping on the windows, probably just the house settling, I told myself. But it didn't help. That night, I decided to stay up and watch the boat closer. I set up a chair by the window, binoculars ready. Midnight came, and there it was, right on schedule. The figure was there, same as always, staring. I watched for an hour, my hands shaking. Then around 1:07 a.m. the boat just vanished. 1 second, it was there. Then it vanished. It was as if it had slipped beneath the water, leaving no trace. I scanned the lake, but there was nothing. No ripples, no sound, just the still, empty water. Sleep eluded me. I stayed by the window until dawn, waiting for its return, but it never did. As the sun rose, I stepped onto the porch, hoping to clear my mind. That's when I noticed them, wet footprints on the wooden boards. They began at the water's edge, where the dock met the planks, and led directly to the porch steps. Bare feet, small like a child's or a woman's, with water pooled in each print. They stopped at the door. My stomach lurched. I double-checked the lock. It was still secure. No signs of tampering, but those prints. Someone had been there standing right outside while I was inside. I called Carl again, practically yelling. He came by that afternoon, looked at the footprints, and shrugged. Probably some kids messing around. He said they swim out here sometimes, but I knew he was wrong. Kids don't swim out at midnight, not in that cold lake, and they don't leave a boat drifting with someone just sitting there watching. I asked him to check the lake, see if anyone else had seen the boat. He promised he would, but I could tell he thought I was losing it. That night I didn't sleep again. I sat in the dark, flashlight in hand, listening for any sound. Around 2:11 a.m. I heard it, a faint creak, like someone stepping on the porch. I froze, my heart racing. I crept to the window, peering through the blinds. Nothing. No boat, no figure, no footprints. But I swear I heard something move out there, slow and deliberate, like it was circling the cabin. The next morning, I packed my bags. I couldn't stay another night. As I loaded my car, I took one last look at the lake. It was calm, empty, like nothing had ever happened. But I knew what I'd seen, what I'd heard. I drove away promising myself I'd never come back.